Hey guys, welcome to season 2 of Letters from the Principal podcast. Whew. Mama, we made it. Welcome back. I am your co-host, Mary Almonte, and I am so excited to be joined here today with Malika Manning, who is the owner of Malika Manning Marketing and the mother of a beautiful daughter that we're going to talk more about in just a little bit. Hi, Malika.
Hi, guys. Thankful to be here.
Thankful to have you. Tell us a little about yourself.
So, my name is Malika Manning. I've been doing marketing now for like the last 20 years. I'm actually like an industry kid. I grew up in the entertainment business. My family has like probably six generations of working in entertainment, film, television, and Broadway.
And we're welcoming to the podcast for the first time this season, the legend, the myth, the beautiful Kim Osorio.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Hello to everyone. I'm new to the podcast, but not new to this podcasting space. Kim Osorio, journalist, executive producer, but more importantly, mother of 3, which you know that
it ain't easy.
It's the hardest job I got.
And we also have Dez White, everybody's homegirl. Hey, Dez.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Everybody's homegirl. It's like everybody's homegirl. Yes. Oh, so glad we made it to season 2. This is just like a baby of ours from the Yum Network. And I think our biggest accomplishment getting into season 2 was Kim. We are so grateful to have you, your space, your just being the legend that you are, all the knowledgeable stories that you have. I think Letters from the Principal, although we are from moms, we want it to be moms of also just a certain space. I feel that because we're in the industry or because we have these notable jobs, people just forget that we're moms, when being a mom is one of the best things some of us have and our most important job. No one's going to care about your career client or the show that you produced if your child is on the Channel 9 News getting arrested. You'll still be a bad mom. So we are happy to have you and your wealth of knowledge. And let's dig into this episode today. Today we are talking about mother-daughter damage. And that topic will probably resonate with everyone here because we are all women. And they say that your mom is your first bully.
Wow.
And to some people that may not ring true, but I want to say, I don't have daughters, so I can't speak of being a girl mom, but I can speak about being a girl to a mom. And my mom was my first bully. Mm-hmm. Me and my mom have a very tumultuous relationship. So I want to kick into that also with all of us being minorities. I often wonder, like, are minority mothers different than other moms? Do all moms have struggles? Because in essence, we have to realize, and I know Kim will get deeper into this, as you get older, and I'm in my 40s, you realize that your parents were just 2 people who had a baby and tried to do their best.
Preach.
And so I kind of realized, was my mom, did she do her best? Did she not get the tools? Like, there's so many different things that we could get into that mothers never, really get the option to go into, for us and for the things that they need to do for us. So, everybody's different. I know that you can speak to that being a mom, an entrepreneur, a girl mom, at that. So I'm really, really excited to get this going, and I'll kick it to Kim.
Thank you. And thanks for that intro. Yes. Because being a mother, like I said earlier, is the hardest job. And every day when I wake up, especially now, I don't feel like I'm good at it, right? Like I feel like for years, people are like, oh, you're a great mom. But the older the kids get, the harder mothering gets.
Yes, it does. And you know what? I want to just give you a tip. I take pictures of my kids when they're happy and when we're doing stuff.
You show it
so
to
if
them?
you ever try to make a diss track about me or say I didn't do anything to you later in life, I want Exhibit A. This is you on the beach. This is you out of the country. This is you out of the country. You were never hungry. You never had a bad day. You only met a couple of men. Like, let's get into what.
The way they tell the story to me is crazy.
Kids are
I don't
always
want to
gonna
come down
I don't
on
know.
my kids right now.
Kids are always
But,
gonna find something to be wrong about. You
It's
know what I'm saying?
crazy.
It's fine. You had a therapist. I'm just ready. If my
You're
sons
ready.
ever
I
think
love
they're
this.
going to diss me, I'm coming. I'm
love
replying
this.
back on the track.
Well,
Right.
let me say this, because you said that you weren't a girl mom, right?
I'm not. I was pregnant with a girl and I lost her, and it's
I'm
like
sorry to hear
very
that.
traumatic for me because I really wanted to right my wrongs with my daughter, you know, but that wasn't in the cards for me.
I'm sorry to hear that. And it's, I think now I want to take back what I was going to say.
No,
Because
tell me.
I
No,
was
I want to know.
You said you weren't a girl mom, but listen.
Yeah.
Having the girls, I feel like is harder. I don't know if Mary
I agree.
agrees with me,
Yeah.
and, maybe when my son was younger, it was tougher because, boys don't catch on as fast, right?
Mhm.
Girls are pretty savvy. But now I just feel like as tough as he can be, he's so much easier than the girls.
Yeah.
He's so much with the girls, it's like all this dramatic stuff all the time. And it's like this review that you come into every day as a mother. So
I think that jumping in here very quickly, and it's a sidebar, but I think we should block all of our kids from the accounts.
I was gonna say that. I was like,
So they do not hear at what we're
are they
about
gonna
to say.
listen to this? Because
No, I want you to log on, boy. Lock in. Get sturdy.
Well, for this
what
to
I
be
gotta
a
say to
safe
you.
space, I think we're gonna have to block our kids. And
Yeah.
we also probably need some Kleenex around here because I feel like this is already
gonna get
getting real.
emotional?
Yes.
All right.
Um,
Let me back up then and let me talk to Malika. And
Yes.
thank you so much for being here. I
Yay.
These queens.
I love hearing about you and your daughter. I do. I love hearing the story of you and your daughter and how just close you are. And I want to hear more about that. But my first question was actually what comes to mind when you hear the word generational or the phrase generational trauma. And, I don't want to put it out there, but a little bit about your story. You were talking about losing your mother and what that was like and what impact that had on you.
Mhm.
And I was wondering just if you feel like losing your mother strengthened the relationship that you have with your daughter.
I would say we've always been close, but I think that her and my mother, they had a certain relationship and bond that it was really hard for my daughter when she lost my mother. Like, I'm already starting to cry.
Oh,
My mother was the type of person that I think that she was someone that carried a lot of trauma and energy, and she didn't really want to pass that down to my daughter. So when I think of generational trauma, I think of like the things that like my grandmother and their ancestors went through and stuff. But my mother was more so very loving. But when it came to me, I would say she was my first bully, right? In a sense of not in a bad way, but more of a good way. Like my mother would say to me, "You're a fake ass Virgo," if I could curse, right? That was like, she was very big on astrology, very big.
Mary's mom's Virgo.
right.
Yeah.
And so is Kim's.
My mom
And my mother was like, she's a September one, I'm an August one. And she would say, "Oh, y'all August ones are not real Virgos." She would go up and down the block in Harlem and say, when she was upset with me, and say, "She's not a real Virgo," like fun stuff like that. And my daughter would be right there with her. I'm like, "Listen, you ain't gonna eat no caviar, Philippe Charles, if you keep playing with your grandmother." But my mother was like my daughter's first superhero, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We've always been close, me and my daughter, but my mother, she was her superhero. So my daughter, she still has like this, it's been 11 years. So my mom died when my daughter was like 10. But my daughter has this thing with my mother where it's like a strong bond. Even when she was in the hospice dying, the doctor said, "Who is this little girl? She has superpowers. She's keeping her vital signs going."
Wow.
And my mother didn't want her to leave. And my mother died the next day that the doctor asked for her to stay.
Wow.
So my mother, she planned her own funeral, picked out her casket. She wanted to hear Mary J. Blige all the time. I remember having this conversation with Misa, and I was like, yo, she's like crying, like listening to Mary.
Right.
And Mary Energy, my life was like basically her soundtrack to her death.
Right.
Oh wow, I don't want to start crying, but
No, let it out.
Yeah.
that was the soundtrack
Do we have tissue?
to her death. And so it was really hard for me. So my mother, when she died, she left all of these cards for my daughter. up until she was 16 so she could read them and know her power.
You can bring in set.
And you know, I'm sorry for getting emotional, but it's
Please, no.
you know, I just feel like my mother, I feel like her legacy will always be strengthened through my daughter. Because she said to me on her deathbed, listen, you fake ass Virgo, you better make sure that she graduates, gets her master's, and she irks the timeline. And we've been doing that ever since.
Wow.
You know, she told me, get her good mentors, get her people that's going to strengthen my legacy. And we're doing that every day. You know, my daughter has amazing mentors. Amber and Cece Sabathia, she dedicated her book to her. You know, shout out to the, you know, Jay-Z, they paid for her college. Like, my mother really put that energy out there for my daughter to be a great role model. So I'm sorry for getting emotional, guys.
No, I think it's powerful, like, for you to have these emotions and talk about it, especially when we're talking about mothers and daughters, when we're talking about our relationship with our mothers. And, you know, I have some friends that have lost their mothers, and they've had great relationships with their mothers. And I haven't always had a great relationship with my mother, right? It's like the older I get, the more I come to appreciate her struggle and what she does. You know, my mother used to always tell me something and I would never listen. I would be like, she don't know what she's talking about. She doesn't know this lifestyle. And then it'll come back to bite me. I'm like, you know, my mother actually said that.
Right.
Like, my mother actually told me that. And I think about that a lot because I remember being in certain moments of my life where my mother said something to me and I totally disregarded what she was saying. I was like, you know, and you know, my mother she had a rough upbringing, right? My mother was one of 14. And
so was mine.
That's right. We did talk about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they was popping them out back then.
Right.
My grandmother was
insane.
My grandmother was
That's how it was back then.
them
Yeah.
out.
I didn't know that thing could do that, right?
Yeah.
It still worked.
Yes. Yes. You know, like, I don't know the birth control, what year that came in, but it wasn't a thing, I guess, you know. But my grandmother, they lived in like a 3-bedroom apartment in East Harlem. Like, she comes from very humble beginnings, right? So like she worked a lot. My mother always had 3 jobs. And yes, she sold Tupperware. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And Avon. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Avon, yeah.
Pink Cadillac.
That little oil used to keep the mosquitoes away.
Skin so soft.
Yeah.
Right. The little spray.
What you want from Avon this month, right?
For
You
real.
get one item from
Right.
Avon. But, you know, like, she always did these things to kind of, you know, hold down the fort. And we slowly started to do better. She worked for the phone company for many years. My mother was always working. So it was hard, right? I thought I was raising myself. Well, I mean, there's, you know, that's still
debatable.
arguable. Right. Like,
But you know what? That was the time.
Yeah.
though. That was the time. I don't fault like moms because think about where we are now versus where our kids may be because we don't make them do stuff for themselves.
Mhm.
Right.
I made my sister's dinners.
right.
I would pack her bag. Like, I got a school refund check from college and bought her Christmas multiple years.
Right.
So it's like, you know, but it's an 8-year gap. So it's kind of like sister mommy, you know, or sister auntie, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not, but yeah, like, it's definitely the responsibility. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
From that era.
That
You
era,
have to
yeah.
do more.
Yeah.
Now,
Certain
I told
things
my
build
kids to do
character.
what I did at
Right.
14. My son would look at me like, "Girl, is you crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the
Yeah.
nanny
Yeah.
out here,
Right.
girl. Desiree, please."
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
true.
I'm way too accessible to my kids. You
Yeah.
see me sitting here,
Yeah.
like, I'm not here. Stop talking to me.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
Right.
popping up in the background of a Zoom. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're popping up in the background of, like,
Accessible
mom.
and needy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My son is very much, you know, but
Uh-huh.
that's a boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But girls can be more needy, believe it or not,
Yeah, I
and then
think so.
nasty when you're not giving
Yeah.
them
I
what.
know.
But I do think we kind of are touching on something or alluding to something that is interesting, like the cultural kind of connection there. My mom is from Mobile, Alabama. And I don't know if y'all saw the movie The Color Purple, but that is really what I kind of liken her upbringing to be. Her mother started having kids at 12 years old.
Yeah.
My mom's on the younger end of her children, so she definitely raised herself. Her mother was literally the help, like that movie The Help, where she used to like clean white people's houses. That was my grandmother.
You was kind.
Yeah, you was important. Yeah, exactly. That was my grandmother, who I'm actually named after.
Right.
And so I think my mother had like that example. And there was a lot of substance abuse, which my mom is still struggling with now.
Right.
And that's a journey that I didn't really appreciate until recently, right? Like I just knew I grew up and my mother was always like drunk and high. And, you know, she kicked the smoking weed and all the other things because of health issues, but she still has the drinking issue. And I feel like it's generational. And so, yeah, but when you're growing up, you're not realizing, to your point, that like your parents are just ordinary people trying to find their own happiness.
I guess, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
When did everyone realize, well, I don't know everyone's relationship with your mother, but when did you realize, even though your mom was amazing, and I want to tell you, your mom was amazing.
Thank you.
That there may have been like, what's it called? Like a crack in the glass with your relationship with your mom. And I mean, when I say that, I'll start it off.
Okay.
I went to Howard, and I had a friend who had a mom, and I saw their relationship, and you know, they say never compare, but I was like, dang, that's how your mom talks to you? Oh, dang, your mom sent you money? Wait, your mom told you good night? And I remember the next, but me and my mom have a very different relationship. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Mermaids.
Oh, yeah.
With Cher and Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
You probably never seen it.
I don't remember.
That's a
If
classic.
you want to be
Okay.
happy for
Yeah.
them.
So
Yeah.
me and my mom is more like Mermaids. And
Yeah.
I'm Winona. And my sister is the small one. So if that kind of lets you know me and my mom's relationship, like my mom is a good mom in her own way. She made sure I had everything. She didn't come from much. So labels and Benzes and houses was important to her because that meant like it was the big Tommy Hilfiger jacket, the big Nautica, like that's what was important to my mom. But I've seen my mom like hustle, like, you know, what's that HBO Max, Seduce and Scheme.
Oh.
And you know what I'm saying?
Rap
so
shit.
it's like we were a team. But when I was in college and my mom called me, I didn't want to do something she said. And she left me a voicemail. And I played it out loud. And she said, you little black bitch. If you don't do what the fuck I said and stop playing with me, Desi. And at first I like laughed it off with my friend. And then the next day my friend came back and was like, I want to talk to you. Your mom called you a bitch. And I was like, okay. And then when she left, I was like, wait, Danielle, you shouldn't be calling me no bitch. Like, I'm your child. She said, Desi, please, bye. And then I was like, wait, this isn't normal. Like, I'm not your friend. Why aren't you my mom? You know, and I think because my sister did die, my dad did die. My stepdad, he died. They died 18 months apart. Wow. So, you know, my mom did have a lot of trauma, and it was always me and her. But to this day, me and I don't speak. Like, if we speak, it like the pocket it'd be so short. Me and my mom getting along is like Little Zane. It's short. It's quick. It's like we could be talking today, next week. And I don't know why. I guess it's because I just like wanted to be a mom, but it's not in the cards for me and her.
I would say this to you. Healing is so powerful. I think that I saw the cracks with my daughter and my mother's relationship because I was like, wait, you're like the grandmother of the classroom. You're going to the school, checking on her every day. You didn't come to parent-teacher night with me. You didn't really push me. My daughter was doing art classes. She's up there. She's crying grandmother of the year. And in a way, I was kind of jealous in the beginning. And I just have to admit that. And then I think towards like my daughter turned like 3, my mother sat me down and was like, you know, the first time that I had sex, I got pregnant with you. And she was like, I was always envious because I saw so much of you and me where I was able to, you know, do things in the entertainment industry that she wasn't able to do, right? Like she grew up around all these famous people. Her godmother is like a Hollywood legend, but she wasn't able to fulfill her dreams because she got pregnant with me at 16. And then my dad was like this street dude who took her from Harlem, moved her up the T-Body Avenue. If you knew the Bronx back in the days, the Bronx was like a big deal for Harlem people to move to. So my mother was always put on a pedestal. And then she had like a lot of things that were thrown at her, bad energy as well. So I think I kind of saw the cracks with my daughter where it was like, well, damn, Donna Marie, you being nice to her. You obsessed with this baby. Even when I was giving birth, my aunt who helped my mother to raise me, right? She's my second mom. She was the one that my mother went to when my mother wanted to have sex. Like on stuff. Hey, this guy, he really likes me. I want to have sex. She was like, girl, I'm going to show you what to do. At 15, who tells somebody, and again, I love you. This is nothing against you. But again, she told her what to do. Like, you know, this is what you have to do and stuff. And then she basically became like my second mother. She's an aunt to me. She helped to raise me. And she gave me the good life where I was going to bird offs on the weekend and stuff. And
shout out to those aunties and those moms' girlfriends that give you an outlet.
Right, right.
My mom had a couple of those.
Right.
You need those.
Yeah, and she took me in when I was 12. Took me in. I lived in the buildings with doormen and gave me a good life. So she's definitely like my mother as well too. But my mother, it was kind of where she really saw a lot of things in me. She was kind of envious of the things that I was doing, but she made sure that my daughter was like her. I think it was like her way to do over.
Yep. And that's the grandparent way. Mary, having the relationship that you have with your mom, when did you see the cracks? And do you feel like she said you may suffer with some envy?
It's hard to pinpoint an age because I used to fantasize about beating my mother up from childhood. So it's funny because in season 1, there was an episode, if y'all want to rewind.
That one a little left.
Right. Well, it's true. There was an episode in season 1 where I kind of on air realized that I was abused. Remember?
Right.
Yes.
Like literally our guest was like, are you okay?
Right.
Because I will say that I've found healing and forgiveness later in life now because when I analyze my mother's upbringing, I realize it's a result of that and not her own thing. But I definitely do think she was envious. It's funny. You had mentioned your mother calling you a black bitch. My mother used to call me a high yellow bitch. And it was like equally not okay.
Right.
So, you know, I would have friends that, and also I do think you pointed out us all being minorities. I went to school in predominantly white environments, and all of their mothers would like talk to them very sweetly, and I'd be like, "Come on, bitch, it's time to go." Like, you know what I'm saying? So, and getting beaten awake like every morning. It was kind of wild. So yes, I was a kid when I realized that, and it definitely was through seeing how other people's family dynamics were. I also have a grandmother, on my father's mother, who was a total opposite. Right. So I had other examples of like mother figures that actually, were not abusive and didn't carry that trauma though that my mother did. So I will say my relationships as a grown-up, I find that I gravitate to other people that kind of have mom issues. Like Dez and I bonded very early on because it was like, I think when I met her, I wasn't talking to my mother. We still go through that in and out. Even with you, when we started talking under the surface, it was like, yeah, my mom, kind of crazy.
It's a lot there.
Yeah. So I do think that somehow, some way, I find my tribe of other people that kind of have these issues to cope with. Yeah. So when was your moment, Kim?
Well, it was very early. I was 4 years old. Seriously.
Wow.
True story.
Specific.
True story. And I was very close with my father. So my mother is the mother of 3 girls. She has no sons. She has 2 girls from my father, who she was married to very young. And then she was remarried years later. I have a younger sister, who's 20 years my junior, right? But I was very close with my father. I was the boy that he wanted, but I was a girl. So I guess I just did all the tomboy stuff. Right?
Same.
And my mother and father used to smoke Cool Miles. I used to go to it was 75 cents. Right? But back then, in the 70s, it was cool, right? It looked cool when you're smoking a cigarette. Like, I mean, not anymore. Now it looks kind of gross. And my mom was smoking one day, and I saw the cigarette burning, and I wanted to smoke the cigarette. So I picked up the cigarette, And I took a couple of puffs. I'm like, what is this? And of course, I'm like coughing. And my mom's like, oh my God, don't do that, right? And I got in trouble and I was really scared. And I remember being very fearful, but I was more fearful of my father. And so I asked her, I was like, please don't tell him. Please don't tell him. I begged her not to tell him that I picked up the cigarette. And as soon as he came home, she told him. Why would you tell us, man? I just told you not to tell him. But
I don't know. Okay, I'll wait. Keep going.
Not
I
as
knew
judging.
I couldn't trust her because she couldn't wait to say it to him.
Okay.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because I got in trouble from my father. And
Right.
not in a lot of trouble. I think ultimately they laughed it off, right?
Yeah.
But for me at 4,
She was an op.
yeah, you was a op. I told you not
She
to
was a
tell
op.
him.
Right.
She lied me because I told you.
Right. And I have that memory. Like,
And has
the
that
reason
played
why-
out in your, as years went on?
I think so. I think so. Because now for me to think about that story, right? Like, why would you tell him, right? But there was this trust that was broken between us, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it played out later. And obviously, like years later, there were so many things that have happened in our relationship. Like, I never really saw my mother cry until my grandmother passed. And from what I saw of their relationship, they weren't close to me. They didn't appear close, but they were as close as they could be with everything that my grandmother was dealing with. And so when my grandmother passed, it was the first time that I've seen my mother really break down.
Wow.
And for me, that was like revealing and eye-opening because I'm like, oh, you did love her, right? Like I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Okay.
I was only about 17 when my grandmother passed, so I didn't understand, right? She lived with us, but she was in the basement. Like it was a very, very, I think, traumatic family experience.
That's how I'm going to put my mom if she ever had to
Yeah.
come with me.
Stop. Not in the basement.
Well, but my grandmother was in the basement. Listen, it's another episode.
Well, it's funny you say that because we could keep going, but we are running out of time right now.
Okay.
But we'll continue in part 2 of Mother-Daughter Damage. So y'all come back now. You hear?
Bye.